Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys the best 10 brawlers to max out for ranked, especially to get masters. So if you're in around mythic or legendary range, a lot of these brawlers are really going to help you just progress in ranked. And even if you have these brawlers maxed out and you didn't realize they're that strong, well, now you do, because I'm going to be walking through pretty much all of it. So the first brawler is very obvious to me, because I think the only way that you can really counter this brawler is maybe in pro play. I mean, pro players don't go this brawler a ton, but in ranked, everybody is just playing it at the top of the leaderboard. So it is Meeple. So Meeple is a control brawler, but there's a few reasons why Meeple is so good inside of ranked. So Meeple is very obvious. One of the easiest brawlers to hit shots with. It literally automatically goes to the opponents. But it's pretty hard to always know the correct answer to respond to a Meeple with. So by that I mean, because Meeple's got two really strong gadgets, two of the best gadgets in the game. So you got a box gadget, which you can use if the opponents are outranging you, or you think a knockout and bounty. If the opponents don't have an aggressive brawler, you just go the box gadget, because if you connect to someone with that box gadget, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a kill. But then on the flip side, say if you pick a Meeple and the opponents respond with, I don't know, Amina, an Edgar, or a Mortis, well, you can still respond to them pretty well with the Rage Quit gadget, especially if you wait till you're low health. You can defend yourself pretty well with that. So he's very flexible. Some of you might be wondering, how do I counter Meeple? I'll go into that in a future episode. But yeah, Meeple's just good everywhere. You think of Gem Grab, a pretty good gem carrier. You think of Brawl, actually really good in Brawl, as long as most of the time with Meeple, you're pairing it with a tank counter like Chester or Otis, which are pretty much at the forefront of the meta anyway. So you've got most of his weaknesses covered through another pick in your draft. You think of Hot Zone, again, everyone's running into you. You got your super that can shoot through walls, your hypercharge, insane in Hot Zone. You think of Knockout and Bounty, really good there, especially in Knockout, because you got the box gadget. So pretty much everywhere outside of Heist, Meeple is insane on. So I think Meeple is the absolute best brawler for you guys to use to get to masters. The next brawler I recommend maxing out if you want to reach masters has to be Kit. So Kit right now has to be one of the most underrated brawlers inside of the game. So I'm not just blatantly saying the best 10 brawlers in the game for you guys to push masters with. Of course, you gotta abuse the meta to get high up in your ranks, but a lot of these are often banned out. I think the average legendary player has improved a lot in draft from what I've been noticing. But brawlers like Kit go under the radar. So a couple of game modes in particular, literally Bounty and Knockout, if you get a 4-5 Kit pick, so by that I mean, if you have first pick, so first pick something generic, I don't know, like Jey Young, Byron, whatever. Opponents go, I don't know, a couple of squishier brawlers. They go with like a Bell or even a Jean or anything like that with low damage. You pretty much all of the time, it's a guaranteed win if you go Mortis Kit, Kaze Kit, Mina Kit, anything like that. Even if the opponents go Cordelius or a Charlie to counter that, most of the time you just win. It's pretty much uncounterable, especially on maps like Bell's Rock, Layer Cake. There's a few maps like that where Kit will just automatically win. And then people forget about how strong Kit is in Gem Grab. So about a month ago, Kit started to reappear in Gem Grab meta, and I was just left so frustrated when I pushed into pro. I was like, how do I even counter this brawler in Gem Grab? And to this day, I still don't really know how to counter, because with Kit, you've got a good support brawler. So if someone's pushing in the grass, you can just jump onto them, and your teammate can help pinch and confirm that kill. And then by the end of the game, you get your hypercharge. Your hypercharge is pretty much uncounterable. You can kill anybody with your hypercharge super Kit, making Kit one of the best gem grab brawlers in the meta right now. So that's what I'm saying. No one really picks Kit that much, but in 3 out of the 6 game modes, Kit is just a must-pick brawler. So for me, an easy max out and pretty easy to play. The next brawler I'm recommended to max out has to be Stu. So again, another brawler that is going under the radar, and I think will start propping up in draft a lot more after I talk about him, because the reason why Stu's so good, he had really good usage rate in scrims leading up to Brawl Cup, and I was very surprised to not see him as often as I did. I think mainly Patchy picked him up and a few others. So Stu, obviously, he's got a bit of a weakness in terms of his lack of damage, but what you're seeing right now at the top of the meta, it's very obvious what people are going to pick. They're going to pick Otis, they're going to pick Chester, they're going to pick Nadia, Pierce, I don't know, Edgar, a few of his brawlers. Well, Stu is fantastic into pretty much all of those brawlers, in particular those damage dealers. Stu is a great counter to those damage dealers. So he's in this rare scenario, right, where you thought, you know, I've done a video, for example, where I was thinking of an assassin to go into an Otis and Chester. Well, most other assassins, of course, going to get countered out by those brawlers, right? Because Otis and Chester are the two best tank counters in the game. Well, you've got like Kit and maybe a few others, but Stu literally hard counters these two brawlers, and he's an assassin, so he can not only kill these two brawlers, but then he can go on to like the gem carry. He can create a lot of pressure. So this is why I'm saying Stu is such a fantastic brawler, where you can go in gem grab, in brawl ball, in hot zone, and even in heist, believe it or not, in like hot potato, where if you, like I said, if you're literally facing off against Chester and Otis or a few other tank counters, Stu's going to have an unbelievable free game. So yeah, Stu definitely going under the radar. Absolutely insane in ranked right now. Next brawler I'm suggesting to max out absolutely has to be Shade. So I know what you're thinking straight away. Well, didn't Sans go 0-16 on Shade? Yes, he did. I feel bad for him because Zeta just played that absolutely perfectly and it wasn't a good Shade matchup. But for the most part, if you watch any EMEA matcherinos, scrims, tournaments, Shade a lot of times just picked no matter what. And that is mainly because Shade is just such an annoying brawler to face off against. All you need with Shade is one super. And as long as you treat that super like it's your first spawn, you're going to be good, because you can just keep cycling your super over and over again. You know, you've got long arms gadget, if you know the Sans tech, where you can double hit the long arm gadget as well. Like, your hypercharge is broken and so easy to get. And the thing about Shade, again, hardly anyone knows how to counter him out like that well. Even myself, like, I struggle to find the right way to address a Shade in draft, because all it needs is a good Shade player, a map with a bunch of walls, and it's really hard to counter him out. So think of a lot of hot zone maps. Open business, you've got parallel plays if it's still in a rotation. Pretty much all hot zone, Shade's pretty good in. You think of gem grab as a last pick, Shade is going to be good into a lot of different brawlers. You're even seeing Shade in heist right now, believe it or not. I've played him a few times because of the tensai effect. In safe zone, Kaboom Canyon, bridge too far, Shade can be pretty good in these game modes as well. So yeah, Shade is a big problem. Again, people look towards like Mortis or Edgar in terms of their assassin bans, or even like a Ali, for example. But I think Shade is a big problem in the meta. But I'm literally telling you guys to max him out, because hardly anyone bans him out. He gets so many free drafts, and if you learn how to play Shade effectively, you're going to be carrying your randoms so easily, where you won't even notice them, because you're literally 1 versus 2 in most of the time, 1 versus 3 in the opponent. So yeah, Shade is a must max out. Now moving on to a support brawler who, if you guys should definitely know this one, he's at the top of the meta, and for good reason, Ruffs. So Ruffs, again, another brawler that goes a little bit under the radar, because, you know, he's a support brawler. He's always been very underplayed in Brawl Stars in general, because, you know, he's got a slow attack. You know, a lot of times you might think he does pitiful damage, but it's literally a support brawler. So your role with Ruffs is to just literally get your hypercharge tree as quickly as possible. But the reason why Ruffs is so good inside of ranks is, again, because he's a great counter to Chester and Ruffs. But even if the opponents, as long as they don't go like Edgar or Ali, those are like the two biggest ones, you're still eventually, like, you might get clapped by Mortars as well, but you're going to get a super from that. You're going to get a hypercharge super. But as long as you're pairing a Ruffs with a good brawler that has a good hypercharge, so for example in gem grab you've got Kit, in other game modes, you know, you've got Chester that pairs really well, you've got like Draco hypercharge in I'll say open business, but just in hot zone in general. So yeah, Ruffs is just a fantastic brawler right now to max out. Again, pretty boring to play, but just at the top of the ranked meta. Next brawler must be maxing out for ranked has to be myself, Jey Young. I mean, Jey Young is so criminally underrated, even by myself. After watching Brawl Cup, after being inspired by Boss, again, a few things might factor into this because of like global bans, so it gives an opportunity for underrated brawlers like Jey Young to thrive. But again, I've been playing Jey Young pretty much in every bounty and knockout game, and there is pretty much nothing that I really struggle against. He's a fantastic brawler, and again, people are underrating him. So again, 2 game modes in particular, bounty and knockout, maybe the odd situation where you might be able to go him in gem grab or in another scenario, but absolutely these 2 game modes, he's just free. So the reason why Jey Young's so good is because you want to abuse the speed ability. The reason why you want to abuse this as much as possible is because you can outrange so many different brawlers. You can just keep chipping them. You can just be annoying, but it's also your great counter to enemy snipers or brawlers that just don't like to be pushed into a certain position. So literally think of knockout, where if you're facing off, I don't know, against a Brock and, I don't know, Byron, Gene, I don't know, something like that has low damage and is vulnerable to aggression, well, Jey Young can just literally continuously push out aggression with his speed attack. So that's why he's so incredibly strong. He can get positioning, and that's always the key in Knockout in particular, is your position on the map. If you have position once the gas closes in, you're pretty much going to win that round, and Jey Young can confirm that. And then you literally have your heal support mode as well. So if any of your teammates get weak, you just pop into your other form, heal them up, go back into your speed form. You got the hyper charge as well, that can make explosive plays. And then you got the damage gadget if anyone's behind a wall, or if a sniper is caught out of position, pop your gadget, 2-shot them, 3-shot them, and they're dead. So yeah, Jey Young, there's hardly any counters to him at the top of the ranked meta right now. He's just perfect to max out because no one's banning him, no one's playing him, and he's a great brawler. Next brawler I recommend maxing out in ranked has to be Charlie. So again, another brawler that's pretty underrated. A brawler that you're going to be safe in maxing out because she's been consistently meta for a little while, and is a great counter to the meta. So again, you take a look at a lot of these meta brawlers. Literally one that I've spoken about in Meeple, one of the best counters is Charlie, funny enough. But Charlie's a great brawler. The thing you got to worry about is like Mortis and Edgar. If you're going to be playing Charlie, do be careful of that, but most of the time they will be banned out. But Charlie's a great gem carrier. You've got Charlie on a lot of Brawl maps. You think Knockout and Bounty, Charlie can be, just think of every single game mode. You can't really like, usually there might be a better option than Charlie, but then if you're just playing her, like, you can always do consistent with her. She's got good range, she's got 2 decent gadgets. You know, spiders are going to be the main reason why I use Charlie, to eat up a lot of the opponent's ammo. But again, you think of like Otis, Chester, Stu, Meeple, a few of these other brawlers, you're able to outrange them with Charlie. You're able to use the spiders gadget and defend yourself pretty easy. You think of Heist as well, defender, you go Charlie. You think of a counter to Kit Cheese, you go Charlie. You think of, again, a few other instances like that, you just go Charlie. So yeah, fantastic brawler. The next brawler you should be looking to max out if you want to get masters in ranked has to be Lumi. So Lumi is a little bit, again, a few of these brawlers I do recommend. I try and keep them simple for legendary players, but at the same time, I don't think Lumi is as hard as people make out. Maybe if she is, I mean, you guys can let me know. I can make a guide on her, but yeah, the pros are playing a lot of Lumi right now, and it's mainly because of her damage, and her projectile speed buff was just insane. Again, I'm not seeing this correlate to my ranked games. I played a lot of ranked games this season, and there's not a ton of Lumi, but she's insane. So the first reason, her ice gadget is just absolutely crazy, but it's just her pure damage. And once you get a super, we saw, I think it was Humble versus Holy Realm, I watched the voice comms, and for example, they know once they get a Lumi super, if they coordinate it with their teammates, it's just a guaranteed kill pretty much every single time. You're rooting the opponents in their position, you just need to fly out a few more attacks, and pretty much everyone is dead at that point. So yeah, Lumi's really flexible as well. You play her in Gem Grab, play her in Brawl. She's a great shutdown to a lot of different ideas. You think of Knockout and Bounty, like she's better on Bounty for sure. Hot Zone, literally her bread and butter. So you can go her pretty much like 5 out of 6 game modes, which is pretty good. So yeah, Lumi is insane. She's one of the best brawlers in the game right now, and people aren't banning her, aren't really picking her. So very underrated. Next brawler you should absolutely max it out for ranked this season if you want to get masters has to be Chester. So this is very, very simple, and I think people are finally clocking on. I mean, it's been, I think, months now since Chester received those couple of buffs that put him at the top of the meta again. But I mean, it's Chester or Otis. I mean, both of them, most people should have both of these maxed out if you haven't already. So maybe think of this as 11 brawlers to max out. But absolute Chester. I mean, do I even need to explain why he's so good? He's just this brawler that's a tank counter, but then can also still be pretty good into, you know, normally what counters tanks, you know, think of Ruffs, you think of control brawlers, those are like counter tank counters, sorry. You think of controller brawlers, they counter the tank counters. But with Chester, he's got an abundance of health, he's got faster movement speed, he's got some decent range as well. He can just bully his way up the map just purely through his health and just being annoying. So yeah, Chester's good for that reason. Everyone knows about Chester. He can make explosive plays. He's got the red gadget that he just reloads so incredibly fast. He's got Dynamite Super. He's got his Hypercharge, which is pretty broken. Yeah, you can just never go wrong with going Chester in your draft, pretty much in every single game mode, to be honest. So yeah, Chester's insane. I'm moving on to the final brawler you must max out if you want to get masters inside of ranked. Has to be Brock. So I was kind of thinking, I don't really like many of the marksmen in the game right now, but I've got to suggest one. I mean, maybe you could go with Byron instead, but I think Brock is probably a safer option if you've only got a limited amount of resources. So Brock is good for the reason in draft is that you can be very flexible with Brock. So Knockout, mainly in knockout. I mean, you can probably get away with going him sometimes in heist as well if you're in legendary, sometimes in bounty as well, but mainly knockout. And it's literally because of your wall break gadget. You're able to pick a Brock and be like, okay, so I've gone Brock, now you can't really pick, for example, in Brawlers, you can't go Rico, or you can't go Thrower, or you can't go any of that idea. They probably will respond with something aggressive. Well, you can now just switch over to your jump gadget, and then you're safe against them as well. So yeah, I like Brock especially below Masters, because a lot of people around this area as well won't be the best at pressuring a Brock. They won't know how to counter him fully. Pushing into a Brock is really difficult as well. So again, those players that aren't the most skilled and not paying attention to how to juke every shot, they're going to get eaten alive by a Brock. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Let me know whether you find any of these tips useful. Again, a lot of these are just, I tell you guys what brawlers to max out, but I'm also trying to tell you guys some ways to use them in different game modes, what they're good at, what they're bad at, etc. So I hope this really helped you out. Let me know whether you want to see more guides like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.